When was the proclamation of the Philippine independence? Every year, the country commemorates the anniversary of the Philippine independence proclaimed on June 12, 1898 in the province of Cavite. Indeed, such event is a significant turning point in the history of the country because it signaled the end of the 333 years of Spanish colonization. There have been numerous studies done on the events leading to the independence of the country, but very few students had the chance to read the actual document of the declaration. This is in spite of the historical importance of the document and the details that the documents reveal on the rationale and circumstances of that historical day in Cavite. Interestingly, reading the details of the said document in hindsight is telling the kind of government that was created under Aguinaldo and the forthcoming hand of the United States of America in the next few years of the newly created republic. The declaration was a short 2,000-word document which summarized the reason behind the revolution against Spain, the war for independence, and the future of the new republic under Emilio Aguinaldo at Library of Congress. The proclamation commenced with a characterization of the conditions in the Philippines during the Spanish colonial period. The document specifically mentioned abuses and inequalities in the colony. The declaration says,
taking into consideration that their inhabitants being already weary of bearing the ominous yoke of Spanish domination on account of the arbitrary arrests and harsh treatment practiced by the civil guard to the extent of causing death with the connivance and even with the express orders of their commanders, who sometimes went to the extreme of ordering the shooting of prisoners under the pretext that they were attempting to escape in violation of the provisions of the regulations of their corps, which abuses were unpunished and on account of the unjust deportations, especially those decreed by General Blanco of eminent personages and of high social position, at the instigation of the Archbishop and friars interested in keeping them out of the way for their own selfish and avaricious purpose, deportations which are quickly brought about by a method of procedure more execrable than that of the Inquisition, and which every civilized nation rejects on account of a decision being rendered without a hearing of the persons accused.
the proclamation mentioned demonstrates the justifications behind the revolution against Spain. Specifically cited are the abuse by the civil guards and the unlawful shooting of prisoners whom they alleged as attempting to escape. The passage also condemned the unequal protection of the law between the Filipino people and the eminent personages. Moreover, the line mentioned the avarice and greed of the clergy, like the friars and the archbishop himself. Lastly, the passage also condemned what they see as the unjust deportation and rendering of other decision without proper hearing expected of any civilized nation. It also proceeded with a brief historical overview of the Spanish occupation since Magellan's arrival in Visayas until the Philippine Revolution, with specific details about the latter, especially after the Pact of Biak na Bato has collapsed. The document narrated the spread of the movement like an electric spark through different towns and provinces like Bataan, Pampanga, Batangas, Bulacan, Laguna, and Morong, and the quick decline of Spanish forces in the same provinces. The revolt also reached Visayas, thus the independence of the country was ensured. The document also made mention of Rizal's execution, calling it unjust. The execution, as written in the document, was done to please the greedy body of friars in their insatiable desire to seek revenge upon and exterminate all those who are opposed to their Machiavellian purposes, which tramples upon the penal code prescribed for these islands. The document also narrated the Cavite Mutiny of January 1872 that caused the infamous execution of the martyred native priests Mariano Gomez, Jacinto Zamora, and Jose Burgos, whose innocent blood was shed through the intrigues of those so-called religious orders that incited the three secular priests in the said mutiny. The Proclamation of Independence also invoked that the established republic would be led under Emilio Aguinaldo's dictatorship. It was first mentioned at the very beginning of the proclamation that stated,
In the town of Cavite Viejo, in this province of Cavite, on the 12th of June 1898, before me, Don Ambrosio Rianzares Bautista, Auditor of War and Special Commissioner, appointed to proclaim and solemnize this act by the dictatorial government of these Philippine Islands, for the purposes and by virtue of the circular addressed by the eminent dictator of the same, Don Emilio Aguinaldo y Fami.
the same was repeated toward the last part of the proclamation that states,
We acknowledge, approve, and confirm together with the orders that have been issued there from the dictatorship established by Don Emilio Aguinaldo, whom we honor as the supreme chief of this nation, which this day commences to have a life of its own, in the belief that he is the instrument selected by God, in spite of his humble origin, to effect the redemption of this unfortunate people, as foretold by Dr. Jose Rizal in the magnificent verses which he composed when he was preparing to be shot, liberating them from the yoke of Spanish domination in punishment of the impunity with which their government allowed the commission of abuses by its subordinates.
An additional detail in the proclamation that is worth looking at is its explanation on the Philippine flag that was first waved on the same day. The flag was made in Hong Kong by Marcela Agoncillo, Lorenza Agoncillo, and Delfina Herbosa. It was accompanied by the Marcha Filipina Magdalo as the national anthem, now known as Lupang Hinirang, which was composed by Julian Felipe and played by the San Francisco de Malabon Marching Band. The document explained,
And finally, it was unanimously resolved that this nation, independent from this day, must use the same flag used heretofore, whose design and colors, and described in the accompanying drawing, with design representing in natural colors the three arms referred to. The white triangle represents the distinctive emblem of the famous Katipunan Society, which by means of its compact of blood urged on the masses of the people to insurrection. The three stars represent the three principal islands of this archipelago, Luzon, Mindanao, and Panay, in which this insurrectionary movement broke out. The sun represents the gigantic strides that have been made by the sons of this land on the road of progress and civilization. Its eight rays symbolizing the eight provinces of Manila, Cavite, Bulacan, Pampanga, Nueva Ecija, Bataan, Batangas, Laguna.
Before we say goodbye, let me show you a short video clip about the proclamation of Philippine independence.
Sa bayan ng Cavite Viejo, lalawigan ng Cavite, ngayong ika-12 ng Hunyo, 1878, sa harap ko, Don Ambrosio Rianzares Bautista, Auditor de Guerra at sadyang komisyonado na itinalaga upang ipahayag na at parangalan ang tanging araw na ito ng pamahalaang diktatorial sa Pilipinas ayon sa karatas ng kataas-taasang diktador Don Emilio Aguinaldo y Fami. Tayong mga nagkakatipon, nagsilagda sa lupa nito ay pinahayag natin ngayon at pinasisinayan sa pangalan ng buong Pilipinas ang ating karapatang makapamuhay ng malaya at nagsasarili, hiwalay at kalag na kalag sa kapangyarihan ng Espanya. At ngayon, hawak ko na ang watawat na aking winabagayway sa harap nitong kapulungan at nanunumpa naman tayong lahat ng buong taimtim na ito'y mamahalin at ipagtatanggol hanggang sa kauli-uli ang patak ng ating dugo